Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Abyss, and I'm gonna be making one final video for Deadman mode this season. That will be this video right here, and I just kind of wanted to talk about a couple of things. The background clips are just like random things that happened throughout the season, a couple kills, a couple close calls, a couple just whatever. But yeah, guys, I really just wanted to be kind of blunt. It's been a little bit over a week since the Deadman seasonal came out. Obviously, you know, I played the tourney as well, and it was actually quite a drag in my opinion. I just felt like with no swapping, the tourney just wasn't up to par, and it wasn't as enjoyable as it usually is. On top of that, there was just hardly anybody like PKing or doing anything. Everybody was just grinding, and rightfully so. I mean, it was really hard to get stuff on there unless you were like a streamer or YouTuber and you got donations, because otherwise you'd swap and end up getting banned, or you couldn't even find anybody to swap, or it's just against the rules, so you weren't supposed to do it regardless. But yeah, I don't know, just because of that, it started to just kind of feel more like a grind man mode, like almost like a hardcore Iron Man type of thing, where everyone's just getting their own stuff and nobody really PKing and stuff. But I mean, like, rightly so, most people wanted to go for the tournament, so I just wanted to say like that could have potentially influenced the way that I kind of perceived the season, because I had already been burnt out from doing that from a week prior. But this was like, I think, the third or fourth season with the 500k XP cap. Nearly a year that we've had these caps. I think it's actually just about a year, like 9 or 10 months. So obviously it was pretty much a rerun from the previous seasons. I didn't have a lot of fun. It just felt really boring and repetitive. With XP caps being that low, it just means that it takes an entire season to actually get good stats. With 500k XP a day, you know, that's a difference between a level 1 and like level 64 or 67 stats, something like that on day 1. Somewhere you can get a couple levels in there on day 2, day 3, but after a while it becomes a difference between like 2 levels. Like 500k mage XP or 500k range XP is literally the difference between like 75 and 78 or something like that, and having only that advantage between a day-to-day basis is really small, and it becomes really stale when like everyone is in pretty much like dragon armor, DFSs and stuff, and you're 70 attack, 70 strength, and 70 mage, 70 range. Like, it just becomes really boring. All the bank fights are pretty much just tank. You know, you can pretty much just pray melee the entire time if you don't want to fight somebody, and it's pretty much impossible to kill them because you don't have any good spec weapons or even a good major range level to do an adequate amount of damage to somebody who knows what they're doing with an infinite amount of supplies in the bank. So I mean, I don't know, all in all, like, XP caps in my opinion are completely fine, but the way that Jagex goes about this is just really bad for the game mode. I feel like it's good for like a new player or someone who's playing it as a survival man mode type of thing. Like somebody like EBP could really probably find this enjoyable, maybe because like he doesn't really play to PK, he more plays to like stay alive and like do crazy stuff like MM2 and stuff. I don't actually know his opinion on this, so maybe I shouldn't call him out directly, but that type of person who has that type of play style, like the survival man mode, that definitely is one of the things that would probably benefit them. But for a PKing aspect, or a game mode that's supposed to be centered around PKing and PKing updates and you know, PvP, and you know, like there's the whole bank keep, you kill somebody, it's supposed to be like a dangerous game mode where everywhere you go is dangerous, and the fact of the matter is it really isn't. Like, the game mode is just super passive. Right now you can't swap, so it's hard to make money as well, and seeing as it's hard to make money, it becomes one of those things where people don't want to risk their stuff. If you grind 3 to 4 days to get items, nobody wants to skull. The only people who are skulling are the people who either got donations, swapped under the radar, or the people who know for 100% fact they're not going to die because they're really good PKers, really good tribridge, really good bank fighters. They do it every season, and everybody knows who these people are. Like, there's a reason that like none of the people in that small community fight each other. Like, when you watch a stream and you see somebody that does, like, I don't fight, or like another streamer doesn't fight, it's because everybody knows everybody else who isn't going to die to 70 strength DDS or 70 strength Gmaul in the bank. And it's the reason that up until today, when I decided that I was going to quit and I was just roaming around doing whatever until I eventually died, that I pretty much just didn't die the whole season. 0 deaths the entire time, even though I played every single day and fought tons and tons of people and stuff. And yeah, I don't know, like, in general, like, it's too hard to make money. The only real thing that I can think of that would fix this is that Jagex needs to kind of accept that the game mode doesn't need to have the best economy. The game mode doesn't need to have as much integrity as every other season or every other tournament or every other game mode. It doesn't need to be something where like you need to grind for 4 days to get a whip or something like that. Like, it should really be something where as you're training, monster drops are like kind of like multiplied and stuff like that. So like you could maybe get like 20 battle staffs, you know, alkables, or like a couple of ruined legs, or just like as you're training on rock crabs or ogres, you know, like 100 big bones drops, or like an Ami of Glory. Like, just like they should make an extra drop table that will pretty much always give you something. It doesn't always need to be like an amazing drop, you know, but it could just something small, even like Addy plate legs, Addy plate body, anything, 5k cash, anything to get the cash pile up. That way people aren't PKing in things like Zamiros. Pretty much everybody will be in Mystic, and as long as there's items in there that have like a set value or an alch value, they'll always be worth something, especially in the PK scene. It's pretty much going to be the same way that OSRS is now, where everything is pretty much at a minimum. Mystic is pretty much like alch value, Rune is at alch value, Dragon weapons are at alch value, and stuff like that. And Dead Man mode can really be like that. It's not necessarily the best thing for the game, but on a small scale game mode where it doesn't last very long, maybe 2 weeks if you're lucky, 1 week of super activity, it should just be like that in my opinion. It should be really easy to get stuff. It would make it so that when people die, they don't just quit the game, because right now, like, if somebody dies, the majority of people will just quit because the game mode is slowly dying out. Like, for example, today I died. Mind you, it was almost an intentional death. I was pretty much just messing around until I died. But there's no reason for me to continue playing. I'd lost a DFS, Fury, Whip, yada yada yada. You'll see the clip somewhere in here. It wasn't even like a big deal. I was just like, whatever, I don't really even want to play. There's nothing to kill. I haven't got a kill in 2 days because there's just nobody to fight. And the reason for that is just like, I don't even want to rebuild. I just literally clicked the X and logged out afterwards. Like, I didn't want to keep going. And a lot of people think like that. A lot of people feel like that. And the reason for that is because, like, the game is inactive. The game is boring. It's stale. We're almost 2 weeks in, and like just nobody is dying. Everybody's using the same gear, camping the banks, and like I'm guilty of that as well, camping the banks and all this other stuff. But like it's only because it's the most beneficial way to play. So like I said, it's very, very, very hard to make money right now. You know, 4 or 5 hours of agility pyramid, and that's like the reason I take donations. A lot of people come in my chat or YouTube videos, whatever, and they try and get on my ass for taking donations. And the reason that I take them is because if the game mode is only going to last like 3 or 4 days, why am I going to grind during the only days that the game is going to be fun when I have a whole bunch of people that are willing to help me out so that I can go in PK and I can produce the type of content that you guys want to see? Even with that, it was still very hard because there was just hardly anybody PKing, and the majority of the time it was just in banks, and it was only really people who didn't die or unskulled people. But yeah, like I said, it's the only real reason I take donations and stuff like that is because it's one of those things where it's kind of hard to make money. And if the game mode is only going to last for a couple of days, I want to at least have fun during the best days of the season. I have no problem making my own money. I have no problem if Jags were to ban donations or something like that. But the fact of the matter is, you shouldn't need to take donations to get the best gear on day one. You shouldn't need to swap to get the best gear on day one. It should be something where as you train your account, you should be progressively passively making money so that by the time your account is capped, you have enough money to at least attempt to PK. Because right now, like, you spend all your money on supplies, you go PK, you don't get any kills, now you're broke, you're skulled, you have no food, you have no nothing, and it's back to the agility pyramid or back to doing whatever to make money, dragons or something. And the people who swap or get donations obviously get ahead. So I can understand why people would say that I'm part of the problem, but the fact of the matter is, like, I got like 30, 40 kills this season. It wasn't really that much. Same with other content creators that I know. We just found it extremely dead. So the way that I think Jags could combat this is making the game, first and foremost, it needs to be auto quest. Every season needs to be auto quest from the get. If we've acknowledged that Deadman mode has a problem with questing and the Deadman mode needs to have auto quest in it at some point, why not make it from the start? All we're doing right now is giving the sweaty people like myself, who will actually grind all those quests out on day 1, day 2, day 3, the opportunity to do that. If we've acknowledged that it's a problem, why not just make it an even playing field from the start? I knew people that on day 1 had Piety done, Net's Helm, Dragon Slayer, all this stuff on literally like day 1, day 2. And that's a massive advantage over people. And so if we've acknowledged that it's a problem and that people don't have time or don't want to do that, why not just make it auto quest from the beginning? Why do we postpone the inevitable? If I was Jagex or if I had any say, I would definitely say auto quest from day 1. I even took a Twitter poll on this, and it was one of those things where overwhelmingly the amount of people were in agreement that questing was the main reason that they don't play. Alright, so on to the next one. On top of the money-making issue, I've always thought that there should be some sort of incentive to skull. Now, I don't really necessarily know what the incentive should be, but it should be more beneficial to be skulled than unskulled in Deadman mode, meaning that if you're willing to risk it and actually, you know, be skulled or kill somebody, that you should have more of an incentive to do that. So what I mean by that is, like, perhaps while being skulled, you have twice as much opportunity to hit that good drop table or the supplies drop table or something. or make it so that like while skulled, only certain monsters, like ones that are perhaps like far away from the bank. So if you add risk to that, you get a reward, like I've stated before, like perhaps something on Karamja or like something. And there should be restrictions to this. Like for example, if you're skulled, you can't box NPCs, or you can box them, but players have priority over you. But in return, you get an increased drop table. So for example, if you want to make money faster, you can go and kill one of the monsters that have an advanced drop table while being skulled. But at the same time, if people come to kill you, you're at a bigger risk because you can't box the NPC and they have the opportunity to hit the monster or hit you while being in combat with each other. This is just something off the top of my head. This is not something that I'm thinking like, oh, this needs to be done. This is a brilliant idea. This is just something off the top of my head. And I do think, though, that there should be an incentive to sculling, whether it be better XP rates, better drop tables, something, because that way more people will be willing to leave the banks. And right now the issue is the game is so big and there's so few players that people just camp centralized areas like banks, Duel Arena, Al-Kharid, Clan Wars, Warriors Guild, because that's where the majority of the players are. There is no reason anymore, because of the XP cap, to go and check some place like Trolls or in the middle of the desert or something like that, because other than the centralized locations, there's no like purpose for anybody to be over there. It's the same reason that people don't go anywhere in PvP worlds anymore, because there's no such thing as EP. I would never go and check somebody doing barrows in a PvP world, because there's no reason for anybody to do barrows in a PvP world when they could do it in a safe world, which means nobody's there. However, back in the day, when you could at least gain EP for doing things in PvP world, there was an incentive to go and scour the entire map for potential loot. So likewise, I think that if Jagex wants to ever make it so that bank fighting and camping banks isn't something that's really a part of their game, the best course of action is to increase an incentive to sculling, or make it so that certain monsters further away from the bank are worth like better drops or something like that, like upgrade their drop tables or something along the lines of something like that. Another issue that I found in DMM mode is the lack of spec weps. Right now, it's really down to like 2 weapons. You got the Gmaul or you got the DDS. Gmaul is pretty much just a YOLO one-hit type of weapon. It's basically just you fight another person, trial and error, until you get the 20-20-25 DDS spec, or 20-20-25 Gmaul spec on somebody's 70 HP, because that's the highest HP that they can go. It's completely random. Most of the time it's on tank. I've gotten kills like that. I've been killed like that. It just happens, and it's, in my opinion, kind of stupid. I understand the way the Granite Mall works. I totally get it. I've used it to my advantage. I've had 30-minute, 40-minute, an hour-long, 2-hour-long bank fights with people where, like, we've both just dumped specs into each other and eventually somebody dies or nobody dies or whatever. It's just like, it's kind of a really random, and it promotes like the RNG style fights. If Jagex made it so that there was a better way to get certain weapons, like I said before, and like other people have said, and I know Mank said the other day, like maybe like a 1 in 10,000 drop rate of D-claws, just so there's stuff in the game to try and achieve. You know, maybe they make it so that like only certain dragons can drop D-claws. So that means that people will at least be over there like trying to camp them, because nobody wants to use a DDS, which means that more people are actually in the map and not the banks, so that people leave the banks and go and fight those people that are doing killing NPCs for those items. Also, you know, they could have always added the PvP armors and stuff like that, and potentially, you know, tested them out in DMM mode to see what people thought. I don't really feel like anybody would have an issue with that, and even if they did, I understand the way Jag's polling system works. If the community doesn't want it, they don't want it. But this could even be looked at as like a quality of life update for Deadman mode and for PvP, because right now this side of the game is being completely almost ignored, and just, you know, we don't really have enough of a voice to say or do anything about it as much as it needs to be changed. Okay, so finally, the last thing I wanted to say about Deadman mode is, you know, I think that all in all, when it comes down to it, the most successful seasons that Jagex has had with running this game mode is big changes. So when there's a big change, like an XP cap, that's usually a successful season. When there's a big change, like Ancients unlocking or Barrows are unlocking like at a later date, those are usually good seasons. But when you just try and rerun the same season over and over and over again, people get bored, because all we do is quest, PK for a few days, and then your account gets deleted, and you're supposed to do it again within a couple of weeks or months. And the majority of people don't want to do that. Like, if you think about how many Deadman mode seasons there's been, it's been 11. This is the 11th season. If you add how many tournaments and the original Deadman, we're looking at 20 plus Deadmans. People who have played all of those have done King's Ransom, Monkey Madness, and all those other quests over and over and over and over and over again. And it's to the point where, like, we're human beings, we're people, we get burnt out doing these quests over and over and over again. And the best way to combat that is, once again, just to either auto quest it or make it so that there's some kind of incentive to at least play the season and do these types of things. You know, I've had a whole bunch of other ideas. If people are down to hear these ideas and you guys like this video, I'd be more than happy to, you know, make another separate video with the idea that I had about group deadman mode. I've, you know, ran some specifications and stuff. I've talked to Jags about it. They said they've noted it down and stuff. And I think it would be kind of a cool video. Group deadman mode, I've got a whole bunch of ideas for it. It's not something I really want to get into on this one. But yeah, there's that. There's also things like pure deadman mode. Like, deadman mode doesn't need to be the same thing every single season. It doesn't need to be the same, you know, outlook, the same areas that are safe. Like, what if they just made it so that only one season, only the GE is safe, and everywhere else you can fight in Vrock, you can fight in Fall, you can fight in Lumbridge. I feel like that would be fun. That'd be interesting. That would be something where people would be like, okay, well, like, you know, this is kind of different. I want to give it a try. You know, topple that with like auto quests and maybe a little bit easier to make money, and there you go. You have a new season with big changes that everybody is kind of hyped to do. Because, like, just like anything in this game and anything in life, when something new comes out, that's what makes people interested. When you just run the same boring thing over and over and over again, it doesn't really pique people's interest. There could be something as simple as, you know, a pure deadman season where you can't get over the defense level of 20. Now every single person would be a pure. It would be very easy to get items, you know, because pures only really require like Mystic or Ghostly and a DDS. They don't really require like all these dragon items, Furies, Whips. Or they could do something where it's like, you know, a real 07 version where like only original RuneScape items from the 2007 release were available. Like anything. There's so many possibilities with deadman mode. It's literally Jagex's self-run, self-hosted private server where they can do pretty much anything. And the community will always pretty much give it proper acknowledgement because we enjoy it. We like it. It's fun. It's, even if you don't participate, it's fun to watch. And people want to watch content creators and clans and stuff participate in these things because it's interesting and it's new and it's innovative. So yeah, that's pretty much my intake on it. Obviously, these are all kind of alternatives. I made another 36-minute video. I'll put in the description. I made it quite a while ago. It didn't really get as much feedback as I hoped. I mean, like, the like to dislike ratio was pretty good, but it only got like 4K views or something. And that there was pretty much just saying that the best way to save the seasonal would be to make it so that deadman mode seasonal accounts completely transferred with quests, items, gear, stats, everything, so that there's an incentive to play the season from day 1 to day 30, and that would obviously be to get ahead in the season or in the tournament, seeing as people have like jobs and lives, family, work, school, whatever, and they don't have as much time to contribute over a 7-day period, but over the 30 days plus the week, you know, a lot of people could probably at least make it work with the XP multipliers and stuff. But anyways, guys, yeah, this was my deadman season. Like I said, I didn't really get that many kills. I found it to be really desolate, really inactive. I found it really hard to actually get kills. I honestly had some terrible RNG, as you've seen from some of these clips probably. And I just hope that the next season is a lot better. I'm just gonna kind of watch this season and say, like, you know, it wasn't the best. You know, hopefully Jagex will do something about this next season. I think that pretty much all the other content creators I know are in agreement with me. But, you know, we have hope that deadman mode will be better. I know that, like, Ian and Mika and stuff like that, and a bunch of other people have, you know, voiced their opinions on this as well, and Manked and stuff. But, like, we love deadman mode, and we love this game, and we are down to see it to the end. We want to play it time and time again. We don't have a problem with retraining and starting from scratch and stuff. But all in all, there just needs to be some changes. Otherwise, each season is going to get worse and worse and worse. And honestly, like, from Jagex' point of view, from like a company standpoint, I just don't understand why some of these updates don't ever get passed, because obviously it would make more bond sales, because more people would be down to, you know, give the game a try, and it would ultimately work out in everybody's favor. But like I said, you know, I'm just a player. I stream, I make YouTube videos. I'm not different from anybody else. And, you know, whatever Jagex's reasoning is their reasoning, and we just got to respect that until they either acknowledge it or decide to change it, or whatever. Maybe they don't ever change it, but this is just my opinion. Thank you guys if you made it to the end of the video. I know it was kind of long. I can kind of ramble and stuff from time to time. But anyways, that's all, and I hope you enjoyed.